May 10th, 1940. Before the morning had fully lit up, the fate of Europe was about to change. The German army was about to launch one of the fastest and most terrifying attacks in history. Tanks were warming up their engines, infantry was loading into trucks, and Stuka dive bombers were waiting for their target lists. Within hours, hell would begin for France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Because this was no ordinary attack. This was the Germans' most feared tactic. Blitzkrieg. In other words, lightning war. Blitzkrieg was not just about attacking fast. The Germans hit the enemy with full force from every direction at the same time, giving them no chance to think. First, Stuka aircraft dove onto targets, throwing soldiers into panic. At the same time, artillery struck defensive lines, tanks pushed through the weakest point, and infantry followed from behind, widening the gap. Before the enemy even understood what was happening, commanders could no longer give orders. Units were cut off from each other, and the defense began to collapse within hours. That was the real point of Blitzkrieg. The enemy lost the war before they even understood what was happening. The 1940 Battle of France was one of the clearest examples of this. The Germans created such an attack plan that within weeks, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg were crushed under the war. Panzer units pushed in from unexpected places. Stukas struck roads and defensive lines, and German infantry advanced through the openings. While the French army was still trying to understand what was happening, the front had already been broken. Even British forces were forced to retreat from Dunkirk in a hurry. That retreat was so massive and dramatic that years later, it even became the subject of Hollywood movies. But now imagine this. At that exact moment, a single modern war machine drops into the middle of history. In the skies of 1940, something appears that no one recognizes and no one can explain. It does not act like a classic airplane, and it does not look like any helicopter people of that time knew. This is an AH-64 Apache attack helicopter. The real question is this: could a single Apache helicopter really stop the German Blitzkrieg? In other words, could one modern helicopter change the course of one of the most organized, fastest, and most terrifying attacks of World War II? An Apache is not an ordinary helicopter. It was designed specifically to hunt tanks. It flies low, hides, appears, strikes, and disappears again. Under its nose, it has a 30mm M23 O-chain gun. This cannon can fire hundreds of rounds per minute, and it is deadly enough to tear apart lightly armored vehicles, trucks, infantry groups, and exposed equipment. It carries Hellfire missiles on its sides. These missiles were made to destroy modern tanks. For a Panzer III or Panzer IV, that is basically doomsday. It also has hydro rockets. They are not used for just one target, but to break up an area, disrupt convoys, and tear apart large groups of troops. But the truly terrifying part of the Apache is not just its weapons. It is its eyes. Thermal cameras, night vision systems, target tracking systems. In 1940, while a German tank commander searched for the enemy with binoculars, the Apache pilot could see engines, people, and vehicles through heat signatures. Smoke, fog, darkness. Most of these would not be as big of a problem for the Apache as they were for people of that era. When the Germans looked up at the sky, they would only hear a sound. The Apache would have already seen them. But there is one important truth here. The Apache is not all-powerful. It is not a video game character. Its fuel is limited. Its ammunition is limited. Its Hellfire missiles are limited. Its rockets are limited. Even its 30mm cannon will eventually run out. It cannot destroy the entire German army alone. If it tries, it loses. Along the Ardennes-Sedan line, there are tens of thousands of soldiers, hundreds of tanks, thousands of vehicles, artillery batteries, anti-aircraft guns, and Stuka support in the sky. When the attack begins in the morning, everything on the German side is going according to plan. Truckloads of infantry are coming from behind. Fuel vehicles, ammunition trucks, radio vehicles, field guns, everything is connected. The Apache pilot does not go after every Stuka because he does not have the time or the ammunition for that. Instead, he chooses the aircraft that could disrupt the flow of the attack. First, he locks onto the closest Stuka going into a dive. A rocket fires and the aircraft is blown apart before it can even drop its bomb. Then, as a second Stuka pulls out low, it is caught by 30mm cannon fire. Within seconds, the formation breaks apart. The remaining pilots are no longer focused on attacking, but on surviving. The first contact happens here. A German reconnaissance aircraft sees the strange machine above the tree line. At first, the pilot tries to understand what he is seeing. The Apache has already spotted him. A short burst of 30mm fire. A few seconds. The reconnaissance aircraft breaks apart and falls from the sky. But the pilot cannot stay there for long, because every second burns fuel and every shot reduces ammunition. The real target is on the ground. The Panzers keep advancing. While German aircraft search for him, he approaches the convoy from behind the tree line. The thermal camera gives a clear image. Tanks in front, armored vehicles behind them, and farther back, trucks and radio vehicles. The pilot looks for command first. Farther down the road, he sees a point where officers and radio vehicles are gathered. He selects the target, locks on. The Hellfire launches. When the explosion hits, it does not just destroy one vehicle. It destroys the flow of orders. The Apache pilot realizes this in the first few minutes. If he tries to hit every German vehicle in front of him, he will run out of ammunition at the very start of the battle, because he is not facing one target. He is facing an army, and this army is not scattered. It is moving like a system stretched along the road, feeding itself and protecting itself. That is why the pilot does not attack the tanks right away. He knows he has to clear the sky first, because one of the biggest threats to the Apache is German aircraft. The planes of 1940 are not as advanced as the Apache, but they have numbers. If a reconnaissance aircraft spots him, reports his position, and German fighters are sent after him, things can go bad very fast. The Apache is an attack helicopter. It is terrifying at hunting tanks, but that does not mean it can comfortably fight every German aircraft in the sky. The second target is the radio trucks. German tank units move this fast because of radio communication. If the Apache hits this network, it cuts the German speed. A short rocket attack, one radio vehicle bursts into flames. Then, the 30mm cannon tears apart another one. Now some units can no longer receive orders. The Germans are now trying to understand what they are facing. Anti-aircraft guns turn upward. Machine guns sweep the sky. Some soldiers fire at the tree line, while others try to follow the sound. Because the Apache is not fully visible, it appears for a few seconds, strikes, and disappears again. But this fire is not completely useless. 20mm anti-aircraft rounds pass near the helicopter. For the first time, the pilot is under serious pressure, because even one hit could end this. But the Apache's vision advantage and maneuverability are extremely strong. It is hard to target. More importantly, the German soldiers do not know how many machines they are facing. Is it only one helicopter, or are more coming behind it? No one is sure. But inside the Apache, the situation is not comfortable at all. The Hellfire missiles are running low. Most of the rockets have been used. Fuel is getting critical. The pilot knows that if he makes one more attack, he may not be able to return. But the Germans do not know that. All they see is this. Command vehicles have been hit, radios have gone silent, Stukas have scattered, the fuel convoy is burning, and this machine still has not gone down. The final move comes. The Apache approaches low. Anti-aircraft guns open fire. The pilot pulls back with a sudden maneuver, then drops low again. He catches a brief opening, and one of the remaining missiles goes toward the target. The explosion breaks apart the command point. Then, with a short burst from the 30mm cannon, he pushes back the approaching threats. The German commanders are no longer sure this is only one helicopter. The attacks coming from different points, the targets being selected one by one. And the fact that this machine still has not been shot down create the feeling that a much larger force is on the battlefield. No one can focus all their strength on a single target. And at this point, the decision is made. The attack is stopped. The forward units are ordered to retreat. The surviving units try to regroup. because now this no longer looks like an attack. It looks like advancing into an unknown threat. The Blitzkrieg plan the Germans built now turns against them. In reality, if they kept fighting, they could have won. But psychologically, they lose. Of course, this is completely a what-if scenario, bro. It has absolutely nothing to do with reality. It is purely for entertainment. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you.